Can you tell me what you remember?
I was in a taxi. I crashed. I don't know how I got here.
You have been in a coma for 4 days.
Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be discussing Unknown, a film that stars Liam Neeson and Diane Kruger. This film follows the character Dr. Martin Harris, who's in Berlin for a summit. However, upon arriving, he realizes that his suitcase with all his passport and all his identification was left at the airport when he arrives at his hotel, so he quickly decides he's going to run back and get it. However, on his way back to the airport, his taxi gets into a wreck and he nearly drowns in the river, but he actually is saved by his taxi driver, which brings him to the hospital.
Can you tell me what you remember?
I was in a taxi. I crashed.
When Dr. Martin Harris awakes from his coma, he realizes it's been about 4 days, and when he wakes up, he tries to head back to the hotel where his wife is. Granted, he's gone through a lot of memory loss, so he takes a little bit of a while to find out where he actually was staying. So he finds out where he's staying, he goes and sees his wife, but his wife doesn't recognize him. In fact, she's with an entire another man with his same name. He immediately begins that somebody's impersonating him, and he doesn't understand why his wife wouldn't just call out immediately that that was him. So he thinks he's going insane. He has no idea what's going on.
Sir, do you have an invitation?
That's my wife over there. Liz,
Do I know you?
what's wrong? It's me. Your husband.
Martin.
You are Dr. Martin Harris?
Last time I looked.
Is this some kind of a joke?
You know this man?
So it's up to Dr. Martin Harris, if he really is that person, to figure out what's going on, why doesn't anybody recognize him, and why when he calls everybody, they don't even think it's him. They look online and look for a picture of him, and it's the other guy. So that's where this film starts, and that's where it's going to go off. We're going to jump into my content review portion of this film real quick, and then we'll look into my thoughts of this film overall.
I'm not crazy. Somewhere there's proof I'm me. I was in your taxi. We crashed.
If you look into the ripe apples for this film, Dr. Martin Harris is very confused about what has happened to him. However, there are some people that actually do care about what he's going through. The doctor that he goes and visits really cares about what he's doing and tries to help him in every way possible that he can. The driver that was driving the cab, Gina, says that she wants to help him as well. After a little bit of persuasion, she really originally doesn't want anything to do with him, but eventually realizes that she really needs to help this guy and begins to help him figure out who he is and what happened to him. And there's another nurse and another man named Ernest that also help him. One of them even sacrifices their life for him to help him figure out who he is. So those were my ripe apples for this film. If you run over into rotten apples here, where there's a lot of violence content in this film. It's a Liam Neeson film, which usually are action adventure. There's usually a big car chase, which there is with explosions, as well as the accident scene, which can be it can be thrilling and it can be a little uneasy for some viewers, especially if you've been in a car wreck yourself before. There is also other scenes where there's some blood on victims' faces of the car crash. There's some fist fights as well as some gunfire. A few people are shot. You see a few people that get injected some poisonous drugs into their systems. One person drinks poisonous substance, killing themselves, and another person is seen inside a car that falls from a high height. You don't see the person actually die, but it is intended that they die. And in one other scene, we do see a woman who gets approached from behind and her neck snapped in half. Of course, like it just, her head kind of falls to the side, so that is pretty gruesome to watch. If you move over to sexual content, there is a scene where Dr. Martin Harris and his wife are in the shower. No nudity is seen, but they're passionately kissing, and that scene is played multiple times throughout the film. And there's also one scene in which Martin and Gina are in her apartment, and they say the walls are made of cardboard, and you can hear a couple sleeping together in the room next door, and it lasts for about a good 10-15 seconds, and then they comment about it for a moment. If you move over to the drug and alcohol content, we do see a few people drinking at a bar, and we see some people smoking as well. Dr. Martin Harris is sedated and almost killed by having drugs injected into him via IV. We see one other person gets injected with a substance, and they end up succumbing to whatever the substance was. There's a lot of language in this film. If we move over to the foul language part, the H word's used about 5 or 6 times, and the S word's used about 4 times, and the Lord's name is misused with the D word a couple of times. We hear a few vulgar references of name calls as well. Check out my website if you guys need the full list of all the language, but there is a lot in here that definitely earns its PG-13 rating. So without any further ado, we're going to jump into my thoughts of this film.
They had me convinced I was crazy. But when they came to take me, I knew.
Now, I thought that it was very interesting. I thought it was an interesting film to kind of look through the eyes of Dr. Martin Harris. I mean, could you imagine if you woke up and someone was impersonating you? The idea for the film is really interesting. I really enjoyed the plot. It was kind of interesting to watch. But when you get down to the last 30 minutes, the entire plot changes. I'm not going to spoil it for you, but it goes from Dr. Martin Harris thinking he's one person when he's really somebody completely different. And once he begins to remember who he is, the film gets interesting even more. But I was just the plot twist that they give you, where he's not really who you think he is, it just really confuses the viewer. If you're not paying very close attention to all the details in this film, you could get really lost really quickly. If your mind wanders for even a minute, you could be lost. And that's kind of hard. That knocks some stars off for me, just because I like an easily watchable film. I don't like to have to really think in deep about it, though some of you may. So that's up to y'all. But that's just my preference. Liam Neeson carried the movie, honestly. His performance, along with Diane Kruger's, were great. I think that they did a really good job acting. The rest of the cast, kind of hard to understand where they were coming from. It just wasn't as great acting as Liam Neeson and Diane Kruger did. They really did a good job. Nothing against them. They did the best job that they possibly could. Overall, I think it deserves a 5 out of 10. It's a decent Liam Neeson film. I mean, it's a great action adventure film if you're looking for something to pass the time. Would I recommend other films? Probably, but I mean, it's not terrible. It's got an interesting plot and definitely a lot of twists if you're one of those people that really like twists. But overall, it was an okay movie for me. I've seen better, but I've seen worse. So if you're looking for something to pass the time, action adventure, go ahead and check this out. Let me know in the comments what you think about it. And if you enjoyed this video today, leave a like and a subscribe. It means a lot to us, and I hope that we'll be able to see you guys on the channel or on our website sometime in the future. Thank you, and have a good rest of your day.
There is no Martin Harris. He doesn't exist. I am Martin Harris.